Here, it's the military-industrial complex.
Right.
So the Federal Reserve Bank was created, and thus it created the military complex.
Ah, the Federal Reserve, one of my favorites. So the Federal Reserve does, in fact, control, obviously, the money supply. Well, it's debt money. It's a fiat currency. It
is legal tender. According to the law, it's legal tender, not
right.
lawful money.
Right.
Lawful money is gold and silver coin, legal tenders, whatever the Congress wants to make legal tender.
So the Federal Reserve's debt dollar that most people place a value on, they place a value on it because that's what they're told the value is.
That's right. It's all a matter of faith. It's like an indulgence.
Right.
It's paper indulgences. Remember, a dollar is 412 grains of silver.
Right.
It's not a piece of paper.
Exactly. But we don't know that. Or
well, we weren't
most
taught
people,
anything.
I know. So, but actually people are spending debt. They're trading debt.
Or a nation of thieves. These pieces of paper are created. We're told to use it as money. So you give me a legitimate service, and I steal your labor from you by giving you a Federal Reserve note.
Exactly.
And then somebody performs for you, and you steal their labor from them with your Federal Reserve note. So we're a nation of thieves, and we steal from each other every day.
And then the IRS steals a portion of our labor.
Oh, the purpose for the IRS is just to keep track of whatever you've made and whatever you've spent it on, so they know where to tighten up and further destroy the middle class.
Yeah, so inflation is a result of the Federal Reserve, not of supply and demand.
Oh, no. Inflation is always created. In fact, inflation is a hidden tax.
Yeah. See, I did a little bit of time in college. You thought I was going to say jail, didn't you? I've done a little time in college, and my professor wouldn't agree with that. He actually taught me in college that supply and demand dictated inflation.
Well,
and I said, I don't think so, and he said that I was wrong, but he was wrong.
See, anybody that's trained in Keynesian economics, which is what the Federal Reserve is based upon, that's their theory. Well, we know John Maynard Keynes was a wicked and evil man. He was a sodomite. He used to buy the young boys in Morocco and use them for his own personal whims. This very same John Maynard Keynes was at the Treaty of Versailles at the peace when they swindled the Germans. This was a very evil and sinister man, and it's his system of economics is taught in every major university in this country, which is a sheer farce.
So I was taught this, that's what happened in my university. Okay, so they control the money. What about the education?
Same thing.
I mean, all education doesn't come from organized religion. There's a state responsibility for education. I would think it's supposed to be county level, but it's really not. It's federal level. So are they controlling the federal government?
That's correct. The Jesuits control the federal government through the Council on Foreign Relations.
The CFR again.
The CFR. Well, the president of Fordham University, the Jesuit president, is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Okay? And whatever the Jesuits participate in, they control.
So there it trickles down. There's our education problem.
CFR is a trusted third party. The CFR controls housing, education, and welfare.
What about food?
What
are they doing about that?
Well, they control the food giants. Remember, with the New Deal, they ruined many Midwest farmers and set up in its place these huge, massive corporate farms, so we can all have what I call white man's corporate food.
Mm-hmm.
It's not food. It's white man's corporate food. It's poison. It has no enzymes in it. It is completely devoid of any life. All your milk and butter is pasteurized and homogenized. It's a poison. And you top that off with some vaccinations and immunizations, and you really got some sick people.
Which is exactly what we have.
Right.
Now, and this is a little bit off the subject, now there's a lot of talk that they're spraying something from the sky. Is that going on too?
Oh, sure. They spray what they call their chemtrails. And their chemtrails are designed to sicken us and weaken us so that there are 100 million chronically ill Americans, so that we don't have the will to resist a tyranny, nor do we have the will to resist a foreign invasion by the Red Chinese, the Russians, and the Muslims, which they're planning on.
You've got this all documented.
It's all in my book.
It's all in your book. Okay, so now they got us all sick. But it's a piece of cake. You go to the doctor, he gives you a prescription that makes you unsick, right?
The theory of medicine is completely Jesuitized today. In other words, you can do anything you want, go anywhere you want, treat your body any way you want to treat it. When you get sick, come to us and we will give you a rabbit's foot. We'll call that a prescription. And this little rabbit's foot, if you hang it around your neck, it's going to make you well. You take this prescription, it's going to make you well. Well, what it's going to do is it's going to suppress the symptom that's indicating that you're sick for a while until it gets worse. And then when you come back, we might give you a little radiation, we might give you a little surgery, but they have no training in nutrition, they have no training in how the endocrine system works together with the central nervous system. If you're going to keep the body healthy, you have to keep these systems functioning properly. And to top it off, they're going to fill your head with amalgam fillings, which are poison. Mercury is the second most toxic poison in the world. And we're also going to fill you up with vaccinations and immunizations. We're going to give you at least 139 live viruses and bacteria in the polio vaccine. So we got you good and sick by the time you're 2 years old.
So how do we survive?
We have to separate from all this. We can't vaccinate our children. We educate our children at home. We get our teeth fixed with ceramic fillings and other things that are non-toxic to us. We eat food not from the grocery stores. We stay out of the grocery stores because they're places of poison unless you know you're getting pure organic food there. We don't eat anything homogenized or pasteurized. We have raw goat's milk. We have raw butter. And we don't adhere to these false fears of salmonella.
Right. Well, that's how they get by putting all the additives in our food, is to protect us. Everything is emotion-based. I mean, silly things, and I say silly, but gun control is not about guns, it's about freedom. But they use emotion to stir people up, saying, if we do this, this happens good.
The Jesuit Conference has, for at least 20 years, been against the American citizen owning a handgun, a rifle, and a shotgun. It's the Jesuit Conference. That's their official position.
Well, I could understand why.
Because you can't have an inquisition when people own guns.
Well, there's 700 million guns in the United States. That would tend to be a problem, I would think. So, is that, I mean, let's assume that this is all planned for a basic takeover of the country. And I'm going to say assume, because
well, that's what they've written.
Okay, that's what they've written.
They've written.
They're not going to get there as long as we're armed with knowledge and with weapons. I'm not a gun nut, I could care less, but if we have knowledge, they lose, right?
Well, you need the knowledge, but then you need historically in the past, you need to have the Bible in your language so you can pray to the Lord and seek His face so He can answer your prayers. And then you need also a gun, because we white Anglo-Saxon Celtic Calvinists are the only ones who won for ourselves political liberty, and we did it with first the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God, and then we did it with also the sword of just defense. That's what John Knox called it when he spoke against Mary Queen of Scots. So you need the sword of the Spirit was protected with the First Amendment, and the sword of just defense was protected with the Second Amendment.
Right. So that basically boils down to a spiritual thing.
Right.
Is as far as I'm concerned. And there's a lot of people, and then they throw up this argument also. They say, well, the Bible means this exactly, that they've described one God. But yet there's other people that say their God is this, and these people say their God is that. But yet their God is teaching the exact same thing everywhere. So it's really, it doesn't matter what you call them. It's the same God, basically.
Well, it does matter, because we're going to speak historically now. The Dark Ages were all across Europe. English, French, German, Dutch, Spanish, Italians. They were all under the heel of the Pope. The Pope ran the kings. The kings ran the people. Okay? That's how the Dark Ages ran. Well, how did we get out of the Dark Ages into the modern era? Well, it started first with the revolt in Holland with what later became the Dutch Republic, when there were great revivals and men were preaching from the Bible, and many thousands of Dutchmen were getting saved in open-air preaching. And as a result, then these Dutchmen said, we have a word from God here in the Bible, the Word of God. We don't need the priests anymore. And so this greatly upset Rome, and so the Jesuits